Howdy, and what a fun chapter this has been. I feel like we've been on it for weeks, but it's a good chapter. It's a great chapter. We're getting into the heart and soul of this class. We're going to be talking more about legal process. So remember in the last video where I talked about the legal process, the fact that a person can be charged under one crime, but they take the definition of computer from the CFAA, or the fact that there's not a term defined, so it goes to its ordinary plain meaning. I'm going to end this with DMCA, and I'm probably not going to tell you as much about DMCA as you might want to know if you're interested in hacking. A good thing to read is the EFF, Unintended Consequences. Basically, we passed this in the 90s to implement our World Intellectual Property Organization treaties. Now, listen to what I'm going to say. It does not change copyright law. That's a separate law, the Lanham Act. Copyright law is copyright law. DMCA is built on copyright law and extends the reach of copyrights to online sources. So if there's a fundamental change in copyright law, it is not going to be coming from DMCA. It's going to go back to copyright law. All this is, hey, copyright law was written when everything was on a record, or by record, I mean, something you stuck into a record player to play, or it was in a book, or it was in some physical object. But now we're in the digital age. So all DMCA does is take copyright law and extends its reach. That's it. It creates new rights. That's it. It doesn't change the term. It doesn't change what a copyright is. It puts some exemptions in, but the exemptions are not strong enough. And every couple of years, the Electronic Freedom Foundation, which you have to remember is not a legal organization, it's just an organization out there keeping us informed, talks about the unintended consequences, that it has a chilling effect on research, it has a chilling effect on innovation because of the STAR. So read the EFF report, but remember they have no legal power. They're just out there, okay? Now here's how it's used. The Digital Management Copyright Act says that you can't, the copyrights extend to the digital world. So, gee, what does that mean? Well, in this one seminal case, Sega was a machine, made game-playing machines, and it took on a little company called Accolade, and Accolade had gone in and re-engineered the Sega machine only to the extent that it wanted to get to the software and everything so it could build games for Sega, which is an actual great capitalistic idea. We all want to make money, right? Sega would have made money and Accolade want to make money. So at the district level, the court went for Sega, and it issued an injunction against Accolade. And Accolade was a small operation, and they were being driven into bankruptcy by this big American company. The district court, the circuit court, went for Accolade and said, wait a minute, this is fair use. There's an interoperability exception to DMCA. So it defended Accolade, and it was so incensed by what it considered to be Sega misleading the district court on how it presented the issues that it assessed all court costs against Sega. Now, individually, while this court case was going on, Sega had licensed to Accolade and developed mutually profitable games, which is the name of the way it should be played. My late partner that I used to practice patent law with, when somebody would bring a patent infringement case, and he would say, and it was the right thing to say, look, I don't know which party's right, the one that holds the patent or the one that's infringing, I don't know, or alleged infringement. So why don't we just license it and make money for both parties instead of spending money in court? And that's a great way that most lawyers don't do. The second one was a criminal case brought under this. It was a man who worked for a company called Alcom in Russia. He came to DEF CON, gave a talk, and was arrested because at that time, Adobe had copyright protections on their PDFs. So he had figured out a way to reverse engineer the PDFs. Unfortunately, or fortunately for him, this became a cause célèbre. Adobe, they actually picketed Adobe, that this guy didn't do anything wrong. The case was ultimately dismissed after this Russian was actually kind of abused. He was put in an immigration detention facility in Oklahoma. I mean, all these things happened to him because they said, look, There's a jurisdiction issue. The crime that he committed was in Russia. This comes under our copyright law. And there's nothing in here that he violated in the U.S. under our jurisdiction. Now, I'm not going to talk about the DMCA as much as many people would like me to. I think the CFAA is more important. I think when we get further on, CISA is more important. DMCA, to me, quite frankly, is a mess. It needs to be rewritten. If you do ever get into hacking back jobs, you need to have strong contracts in place to protect you. You need to have knowledge of these laws, but you also need to go beyond this course in looking at some of these issues and the current state of the law. So again, I'm not going to overly emphasize DMCA. I hope I'm not disappointing you there, but we're getting ready to move on to Chapter 8. So catch up. We have no class tomorrow, which means there won't be another lecture until later in the week when we start Chapter 8. Thank you for sticking with me.